let's talk the pros and cons of mulching in your garden. Hi friends, I'm Laura. This is Double Vision Homestead, and today we're going to talk about mulching your garden beds. So first, I want to start with the pros. What is positive, what it helps with, why you might want to do it. So first, it maintains a steady soil temperature. So early in the season or very late in the season when it's cold out, it helps warm the soil. It's like an insulating blanket for it. When it's hot out, like today and later into the summer, it helps cool the soil. So it just makes plants a little bit happier because they're not getting such extreme temperatures. Next, it keeps moisture in the soil. You don't have to water as often. Plants aren't dying because they're drying out. It just keeps it a nice even moisture, which also helps with watering. So sometimes if you haven't watered it enough, the soil gets hydrophobic and it doesn't really want to even soak in. It just kind of puddles on top. This really helps prevent that because moisture soaks into whatever you use for mulch, and then it just helps keep that into the soil as well. Next, it also prevents soil from splashing up onto your garden plants. So that could be if you have tomato plants that may get diseased, it helps keep the soil from splashing up and causing the disease in your tomato plants. It also helps keep it from splashing onto your lettuces or things that you eat fresh without cooking. So sometimes, you really don't want to be having to scrub to get the dirt off. If it's just a easy little, there's not dirt caked all over your food, it makes it a whole lot easier. And last, but definitely not least, it decreases the amount of weeding that you need to do. I don't know about you, but I don't really enjoy the task of weeding. I would much prefer to do really anything else in the garden. Just please don't make me weed. So I like to use this to help prevent having to do much weeding. It seems like it does a very good job of that if I stay on top of it and refresh the mulch as necessary. So now that we've gone through all the pros of using mulch in your garden beds, let's talk about some negatives, because it's not all perfect. Nothing ever is with gardening. So then you have to decide which is the best for you. So the one that is the worst for me, the one I deal with the most that, makes me question it occasionally, is that there may be more pests that you have to deal with. So I live in Western Washington. We have lots of slugs and snails in our garden beds, and I use hay or straw as mulch, and those slugs and snails and earwigs and everything else loves to live in the mulch that I put down. So then once a new plant sprouts, they're just right there ready to eat them. So that's definitely the biggest negative. And along the same lines, I have a lot of larger birds that are in my garden. So robins, bluebirds, those kind of things. And they like to dig around in the mulch for these slugs and bugs and everything else that they eat in there. Well, they're not necessarily careful when they're doing that, and then they snip off part of a plant, a whole plant, so there's definitely plants lost because of the mulch as well. Another thing you may need to worry about is that some hay or straw sources may have herbicides in them, and you definitely don't want to be putting that on your garden because it's going to kill your garden plants. It isn't always easy to tell which ones are good and which ones are bad, so it's kind of a gamble, I guess, unless you can really find a good source that says that there was no herbicides used on those plants. And last, it may contain weed seeds. I know, I said I use it to prevent weeds, and so I don't have to worry about the weeds in my garden beds. Well, there's some seeds involved as well. So sometimes I do have some hay that starts to sprout and grow. It's usually pretty easy to pick out, and they grow in a clump because the seeds are like a seed head where it's a clump of seeds, and it's just like one little pluck. Not a big deal because it prevents the other weeds from growing that I don't want. So it's a give or take, positive, negative at the same time for me. With all of that, I have found the pros outweigh the cons. If I have to plant a couple more plants during the rainy spring so that the slugs don't kill all my little sprouts, well, I'll do that. I just prefer, I hardly have to water. We have very, very dry summers here in Western Washington, and I water maybe once a week. I really don't, it's another task I don't enjoy doing that often, and it doesn't seem to need it. I set it up so that things can really survive with as little help from me as possible, and that's why I use the mulch. So thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. Let me know if you use mulch and if you get the same benefits from it, or if there's more pros and cons that I didn't even mention. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.